Hey everyone, welcome to Business Growth Talks YouTube channel. It's an absolute pleasure that you've come to join me today. Today we have Chad Price, who is a serial entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in business. He founded Kettlebell Kings, a sports equipment brand which focuses on kettlebells. And recently he started a Life Grows Green, a lifestyle brand focusing on hemp, cannabis, and natural products. Chad is also an author of the book Preparing for Battle, which shares his experiences and lessons and learned in business and in life. Look, if you are enjoying this content, that is wonderful. Thank you so much. Please do give it a thumbs up. It really helps. Also, any comments below on Chad, what he's experienced, what he's gone through, and the book that he's got coming out as well. And also, please do think about subscribing to the channel. It really helps with the algorithm. I know everyone says this on YouTube, but it really does boost the channel and be able to boost the content as well. So thank you so much, and on to the interview. Today we have Chad Price. Chad is a serial entrepreneur spanning over a decade in business. He founded Kettlebell Kings, which is a sports equipment brand, which is focusing mainly on the advent of using kettlebells. The company was acquired in November 2021. His recent company is Life Grows Green, which is a lifestyle brand focusing on hemp, cannabis, and natural products. The company wants to help heal customers and break down the stigma around cannabis. Also, Chad has released a new book called Preparing for Battle, which shares how to overcome life's challenges and unlocking your full potential. Chad lives in Austin, in Texas. Hey, Chad, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Doing great today. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you.
It's very nice to meet you as well. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to talk about how businesses grow, and you've worked through two businesses primarily that we're going to focus on, and we'll talk about your book as well, but how those businesses grew and what the things that you did to be able to make them successful with Kettlebell Kings and Life Grows Green. So thank you for joining me. The first question I always ask is, what does a business mindset mean to you?
I think it varies for some people depending on the type of leader you are. But the way I try to look at it is it's a competitive mindset that takes on obstacles on a regular basis. I think entrepreneurship and business is one of those things where it's that obstacles are going to be the task of the day every day. When you're the leader or the owner of a company, if a smaller problem could have been handled by somebody else, it usually is. So usually your day is just filled with doing the most difficult problems other people really couldn't figure out how to do or couldn't figure out the direction. I think my background in sports gives me somewhat of an advantage in that space because I just look at it like practice every day. It probably will suck. There'll be days that are harder than others, but each of those days will incrementally make me better at being a leader or whatever, trying to achieve whatever goal I'm trying to achieve for that initiative.
So competition, do you see yourself as competition with other companies that are in the same space as you, or is it more a competitive nature of trying to improve every day?
I think it's a combination of both. I think some people shy away from the word of being competitive, but to me, being competitive doesn't have to be malicious. It's the competitive nature is more of a spirit of improvement. I think you're trying to actually be better and you're using other companies, the market, your current customers as points of reference to your own improvement. So that's how I look at competitive. When you start a company, how big can you be? How big should you be? I think you use other companies to set those markers and set the pace that you need to run in order to be successful. And that's how I try to look at it. And I take that kind of experience from sports. It's not that I hated my rival team. I respected and appreciate those guys. And so competing with them allowed me to actually be better. So the people I competed with in high school allowed me to get a college scholarship and continue to play football. And that's how I look at business. Every one of these battles just continues to hone the skills of myself and of the company itself to grow and be successful.
So what position did you play in football?
I played strong safety, so defense. And I played everything growing up, but in college I played strong safety.
And one of the other questions that I often ask, and I don't know if you'll bring out the sporting background, but tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today. And you can say competition, but I'm just thinking, is there anything else that reflects on who you are today?
I think I grew up in a small town, so away from the big city, and I think my childhood and my growing up really cemented a lot more discipline than most people who grew up, let's say, in a more entertaining area. I think there was not much to do other than go outside and play sports, practice, get better at athletic activities. Growing up, that's pretty much what I did on a regular basis, and I think those types of lessons, along with my dad being in the military and my dad would force me to get up at 6 in the morning during the summer and work out and things like that. My entire life has always been preparing for something that's greater than what I'm currently able to achieve. And I look at that, and it's like that in business, and I looked at life like that in sports. And so now I just try to take those same lessons and say, okay, what can I be doing on a regular basis to improve myself as a business professional or as a decision maker? And that's really what I'm trying to do right now.
And one of the things you said about the first question about business mindset was about difficult problems or solving problems. And one of the things you hear consistently is the bigger you get in a business as a leader, the bigger the problems come, and you have to deal with the bigger problems. Do you ever look back at like the younger years when problems were quite small and what t-shirt to wear, what thing to do at the weekend with friends, whatever? How do you see that progression of problems? Do you embrace the fact that you're now dealing with much bigger problems than you were when you were younger?
Yeah, 1,000%. I'm one of those people that I almost seek them out, and it's a subconscious thing at this point, just because that's how I've been trained to grow, is to seek out the hardest problems and to go and try to tackle those problems. I've always been the one in every company that I'm associated with that says, okay, yeah, we did great today, but it's not good enough. Let's get back to it. And I think really having that mindset, especially for a business, is important. A lot of people, when you start your business, you get to your first $1 million in sales, you feel like you've made it. And if you want to have life-changing money, that's nowhere close to enough of a sales revenue or just a overall revenue for a business to make any type of global impact. And so every brand that I've ever started or been associated with, I always saw it as something that could potentially be a global brand. I'm always trying to build this virtual digital community of people who can reach out and connect with this entity from anywhere in the world. And then how can I provide products or services for those people that they want to enjoy? And that's really how I see business.
And one of the problems that I have is that I have trouble celebrating wins, and I'm constantly being told by people that you should just celebrate the small wins. And I'm always thinking once something good happens, it's right, what's the next step that I go on to? My wife tells me that I should take stock and just celebrate the small wins. How do you celebrating wins? Is it something that you actually spend time on, or are you on to the next problem, onto the next solution?
I think I'm probably more in your camp of I've been told that same thing before. But I think there's different levels of intensity and expectations between someone who is in the fight and then someone who is observing from the outside. I look at it like the fans in the stands, they have a lot of opinions about how we should celebrate the wins, but they don't have to go to practice the next day and they don't have to play in the game the next week. Like that may sound good to you that we can celebrate the wins and let down our guard a little bit, but we know we're in a battle right now, and that's not necessarily how we operate to achieve success. And I think that's up to you to have kind of the self-awareness and the leadership skills to know when to turn it up and to turn it down. So I think you can go too far and demoralize your team and your crew by not giving them some support and showing them that they are moving in the right direction. But at the same time, one of the key things or one of the key reasons I see companies not grow to their full potential is because they're too busy celebrating these small wins. One of my favorites is companies that raise money. They celebrate raising money like they've achieved the mission of the company. I'm like, hey, that's a debt. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. We have an opportunity now to achieve something. That's what we've been given. And I think a lot of people go, no, we've made it. That's what we want to do. We want to raise $100 million, and we did that. And now we don't have to do anything. And it's more that $100 million should set you up for harder work than you've ever done in your life. And that's how I try to put the mindset on my team. And you have to have some type of balance. You have to have clear awareness of who your team is, what they can handle, and all that comes through experience. And when you're able to be there and see it on a regular basis, I think you're gonna have to feel that out and play it by ear every single time.
Yeah, I'm very good at letting other people celebrate. Like I
Yeah.
congratulate when things go well with my team, because I run a couple of businesses myself, and I'm very good at saying congratulations or well done, you did a really good job. But me personally, I just move on to the next day and it just starts all over again. I think we're in the same camp there. Look, you're out promoting your book. It's called Preparing for Battle. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the book? What's it about? What's the story behind it?
I think I've always really wanted to write a book. I didn't really know, let's say 10 years ago, what I'd write it about. But the Kettlebell Kings journey just ended up being a 10-year journey from us starting that in 2012 to the acquisition at the end of 2021. It was really a perfect time for me to put my thoughts down and talk about some of the experiences I had and lessons I learned along that 10-year journey and starting and growing that to a global brand. And then I also talk about my personal experiences that helped me put myself in the right mindset or help me have the perseverance to make it through, let's say, the tough times in Kettlebell Kings, and not just Kettlebell Kings, and trying to grow that brand and also manage my life during that process. I start the book with, I break the book into 3 parts. It starts with my background, talking about who I am, where I came from, some of my kind of experiences growing up. Then I get into the second part where I break the business into 10 basic building blocks. And that's just me trying to section things off and really give some conceptual categories to how you can go about looking at business or looking about framing your first business. And then at the end, I have a workbook for you to map out your idea specifically, because I really talk about choosing these experiences that you went through to focus and learn from. I think one of the things people don't realize is you've been learning or you've had the potential to learn to be a better leader your entire life. You've been going through experiences, you've been working at jobs and viewing other people achieve things that are difficult. And a lot of times I don't think we're paying attention to the lessons that we can apply to ourselves and the things that we can take from that. And so with sports, I was really able to do that. I talk about, for example, in high school, the first branding that I ever saw was actually my coach in high school that came to my high school my junior year. So we had a different coach previous to that. And then my junior year, we got a brand new coach. I didn't know I was getting branding lessons at the time, but now looking back at that, I can see, okay, he rebranded us. And that's what helped us also win the state championship in 1 year. It was a complete rebrand. And I still, from those lessons and how the team responded to that, how serious and intense he was about some of the ideas and concepts that he needed us to believe in. Like, I still take those lessons to this day. And that's just one example. And I think everyone has those experiences they can pull from.
How far were you from the NFL?
Oh, I was very close. I played somewhat after college. I tried out for a couple NFL teams. The NFL to me was an opportunity. Honestly, I would have loved to play in NFL, but I've always looked at football and sports as a means to an end when I'm trying to achieve, let's say, my own business success. I honestly just wanted to go to the NFL to get a little bit more notoriety so I could start my own business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And just what you said about the story of the business and breaking it into 10 blocks. I'm interested whether those 10 blocks were evident to you whilst you were growing the business, or was it once you started writing the book and hindsight that you saw the 10 different blocks? What was it?
I think I could break it up into 20 blocks if I wanted to, if I was forced to do it. But I do think the hindsight being 2020 definitely helps for sure. I don't think I would have given the clearer advice 10 years ago before starting the company. So all of the book is a reflection of what it took to get to where we were. And I talk about in the book that the 10 building blocks that I'm talking about, the journey that I have, that's a lesson. That's not a recipe. It's not a blueprint for today's starting a business today. This is me telling you how we've done it then. That doesn't necessarily line up with the methods and strategies that you may need 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the world is changing, and with
So
technology changing so fast that we are constantly readjusting, iterating, getting better all the time. Look, so the story of the book is intertwined with Kettlebell King. So how did you start that business? It was I remember seeing a video. There was 3 of you, was there, that started this business? Is that right?
Yeah, so basically, I was just like anyone after college. I was still playing football somewhat. Like I said, I was playing in what would be considered like the XFL today. It was called the AFL at that time. And that league actually folded. I was supposed to be on that team, had a contract. The league folded 2 days into the league. And that's when I really decided, okay, it's time for me to hang my cleats up and start my corporate career. I wanted to have some type of corporate career. I wanted to start my own business, but I also didn't necessarily know what type of business that was. And I didn't know if I had the experience and the mentality to run my own business at that age. I was really trying to look for experience in the lessons that I would need to learn in order to feel confident in achieving my goals. That started with me working in construction, sales, a bunch of different jobs, ended up in oil and gas company I was working at. I was climbing the corporate ladder pretty fast there. And I really could see every position or every potential position that I would ever be in. And that gave me enough confidence to say, okay, if I want to come back to corporate America and play this 15, 20, 30-year journey out, I can. But if I want to start my own business, it's now or never type of deal. So I reached out to a couple of buddies of mine that had previously talked about starting their own business. I wanted to form this council of 3 people, and that was really important to me. And I probably talked to 4 or 5 people and chose 2 people, and we decided to start our own business. One of those businesses ended up being Kettlebell Kings. At the time, I also started a nail salon at the same time because I needed to generate some type of cash flow. And my girlfriend was very creative and she went to nail school, and I did the construction for the salon, and we got both of them up and running at the same time.
Oh, amazing. Now, you sold the business a couple of years ago. Did you have an ambition when you started the business? Did you know your exit plan before you actually started your business, or did it just evolve?
I wish we had the foresight to plan everything out. I think we had no idea where the company would go when we started. We knew we wanted to start our own company. We knew we wanted to turn this into something that would make us life-changing money. We knew we wanted to be a global brand and online community. It was going to be something that was digital, e-commerce based, direct to consumer. So we had all of these things lined out, but we didn't know how that was going to play out in the end. When we even started, we didn't know if we were going to be a kettlebell manufacturer or if we were going to be a kettlebell wholesaler. I think all of these things were things that we just figured out on that journey to be the number one place for a kettlebell enthusiast online, or the number one place in the world for anyone who's looking for kettlebell content or information. We wanted to claim that title. On the quest for that title or that trophy, along the way, we found, okay, this is what we need to do to consider ourselves that. And I think part of that process took a little bit longer, but I think that's what really made the brand resonate with the community, especially when you talk about a global community where we're not advertising in these other countries, but people are just seeing the value of this space and having no choice but to be associated with it if they like that product.
Did you get in with certain gym companies? Did you supply to gym companies, or was it mainly for private use?
Yeah, we really got into that quite a lot. We were doing 24-hour fitness, Lifetime, Equinox. We were doing quite a few bigger gym orders. And the goal of our entire brand was to connect these communities and to find kettlebell enthusiasts throughout all of these communities. So if you have a fitness community, you have kettlebell enthusiasts in there. They just don't know that we exist, or they don't know how valuable our content is. And so there's a lot of large companies like that. And really any fitness, health and wellness company, any kind of progressive, healthier type of brand, they have kettlebell enthusiasts in there. And it's just a matter of creating collaborations, doing promotional content. It's really just a strategy or production strategy of trying to generate content and trying to generate pieces of information that not only our customer wants to see right now, but what will bring someone into this community. And I think that's what we really found success is. It wasn't about us going out and trying to push a kettlebell onto someone who doesn't want one. It's about us forming this larger community and then providing products that they want to purchase.
And that seems to be, and I saw on the video that you said you talked about the online community, the community that you created around kettlebells. I think it's very interesting that you moved to create, and you created content, and you created that community of, as you say, like kettlebell enthusiasts. Was moving your business from a startup to an established business partly or mainly based around creating that online community?
For sure. I think when we started, that's what we had in mind kind of as a key part of the business. So we realized early on that trying to convince someone who's sitting in their living room and never seen a kettlebell or lifted a kettlebell to just click the button and purchase one is not a very lucrative business model. It takes a long time for someone to get comfortable buying something like a kettlebell. kettlebells are intimidating. One of the things we would use, we would say this is just as intimidating as a sword to a lot of people. People are not just going to buy this big sharp piece of metal that they feel can potentially hurt them. But if you get them comfortable with it, if they see people training with it, if you try to get them more into a mindset where they see it as a tool versus something that's potentially dangerous, it becomes a lot easier to make that sell. And that's what the community really allowed us to do. When I say forming a community, we're not going out trying to make direct kettlebell sales. We're going out trying to get people to join the community. So we're advertising things like free workouts, free content, free programming, whatever it is. We're advertising this value that you just get up front for joining, whether that's on social media, YouTube, email lists, all the text messages, all of these different areas that you can connect with us. We're trying to get as many people into that funnel as possible. And then from there, that's when we'll start actually pitching products. But you may be in that community for 3 to 6 months before you ever actually get pitched a product. And I think a lot of companies don't necessarily look at it like that. They just want you want a kettlebell. Here's a kettlebell. Like that's the thought process.
And was there any temptation to go into weights and like move the business that way, sideways, and cross sell other? So I know you did merch and you did the online community, but did you ever think about expanding the product line?
Yeah, and actually, I probably should put this in my bio and to help clarify, but about 5 years into Kettlebell Kings, we started another company called Living Fit. So that was a sister company, or it's part of this umbrella of companies. At the time, and I recently sold my shares in that as well. And at the same time, I sold Kettlebell Kings. So I actually sold two companies at the same time. Okay. But at the time, the goal there was to literally do everything else besides kettlebell. So anything else that wasn't a kettlebell, you could run under this other fitness brand, Living Fit. We did a lot of certifications, digital training, workouts, obviously like dumbbells, barbells, these types of things. So for us, that online community of kettlebell enthusiasts was the base and the largest community. But obviously, like I talked about before, it's the same thing in that community is general fitness influencers or fitness enthusiasts as well. So we want to provide equipment for them. And so that just became a different way to do that. So Living Fit was another way to supply this community with additional equipment, but it all started from building this huge kettlebell community. And we would also then try to, grow Living Fit on its own. And that happened over the next few years. And that was one of the things that even helped us get to the point of sale is now we had these two competing brands. They're not really competing, but they're feeding off one another and somewhat competing by sharing some customers, but then bringing more people into the overall funnel. And I think that's the ultimate goal for any business is to get more people at the top of the funnel.
Great idea. Amazing idea. And what were the challenges that you faced by going from a US-based, purely US market to an international market?
I think the beauty of the model that we use in really growing these community first is you don't have many challenges going in because you only go where the community is telling you to go. So for us, all that would look like is, hey, let's start trying to bring in people from this geographical region. And it's easy when you start with English speaking. You can be a global brand just by doing English speaking only. Yeah. And that's the approach we would take is we would go into any English speaking market, start an advertising budget there, and then we would compare those markets against one another. So here we go again, competing markets against one another. And these markets are going to tell us which ones that we need to go into first. They're going to tell us where we can get the easiest leads or the cheapest leads. We're going to be able to compare that same marketing strategy to what we're currently doing successfully here in the US. And all of these kind of points of reference that we have, just the business tells you where to go. And the online community being valuable is what really brings people in. For example, we didn't know that people wanted our kettlebells in India, but people kept sending us stuff in India. So it's okay, maybe we need to get distribution in India. Same thing for Australia. We have no idea why Kettlebell Kings resonates with Australians more than it does with people from the Netherlands. We have no idea why, but the numbers tell us that, and it's very easy for us to see those numbers, go get a fulfillment set up, and basically start shipping containers to those fulfillment centers. And for us, it just becomes another new geographical location that can come into the same kind of production content generating schedule that we've already started. So nothing really has to change. It just opens up more opportunities for us. So now we can bring in a couple Australian partners to create content with and establish some type of social presence there and things like that. So it's just a journey of finding where the community takes you and where people are most interested in joining.
Absolutely. And I think you absolutely nailed it as a business, being able to create that community and within communities, people refer people to your product, and then they then say, this is really great, I enjoyed using this, you should use this too. Or even if it's a friend in, as you say, India or wherever. I think that was a very smart move, and being able to create content and build that audience that way was a very much a very clever marketing strategy to be able to expand to other areas. I congratulate on that. I think that's great. What were your three biggest markets?
Probably, obviously, the US is going to be the biggest, and then EU, probably, if you're talking about specifically, probably the UK and Germany and the EU, and then Australia.
Amazing. Would you do anything different if you started the business now with Kettlebell Kings?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think you wouldn't be an entrepreneur if you can't think of the mistakes that you've made along the journey. I think, yeah, we do a lot of things different. We didn't pay ourselves for the first 5 years of the company, and that was hard and stressful, but it also created and galvanized us to do something better. I talk about starting Living Fit was part of that revenue generating idea to, hey, we can't afford to just keep having a brand. Like this needs to be able to pay us. It needs to be able to put us in a situation in life that actually changes our lives or actually improves our lives somewhat. And that required us to take the company to another level. And even at that time, I talked about earlier, celebrating your wins too early, I think we were a little bit in a place where we're winning, but we're not paying each other. So are we really winning? Can we call that a win? So I think there's a lot of lessons like that. I think we should have took on financing quite a bit earlier.
Really?
I didn't know it.
Okay.
I didn't have that experience to know, okay, when is the proper time, or what's the KPIs that I need to recognize in order to take on financing? Having gone through this 10-year journey and selling my company and interviewing so many companies that are buying companies and things like that, and selling more than one company definitely gives me more of a reference point and when I should start looking for those types of things and how to set myself up for an exit. I think we could have done that a lot sooner. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things we can improve on, but all of that, I say that with hindsight being 2020, like you don't know what you don't know, and getting the experiences, I think, is the most important part, and learning those lessons. We're fortunate enough now where we live in a time where a lot of that can be learned up front. You can do your research and try to learn as much as you can up front, but at the end of the day, when you're on the field and it's going on, it's a lot different sscenario. You got two business partners. You also have to compete with their strategies and their lives and current situations. It's not as straightforward. It's just research may lead you to believe, basically.
There's lots of moving parts. I interviewed John Briggs, who should be the week before this is released, and he said to me, he was an accountant that has grown a really big accounting firm in the US, and he said, you wish you'd knew this when you started, but when you get to making the numbers up, a £500,000 profitability or revenue, whatever it is, you've never done that before. So you don't know what you need to know until you reach that point. When you get to 1 million revenue or profitability, at that point, you still don't know what you should know because you've never been there before. It was a really fascinating experience. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have to embrace the journey. You have to embrace that you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be failings. As long as you change and you pivot and you adjust and you can still keep the business profitable, that's what we should be doing. But that whole idea of you don't know what you should know because you've never been there. And I want to lend this from Kettlebell Kings into Life Grows Green. So you didn't know what you needed to know until you reached that point. Then you sold, and then you started a new business, which is Life Grow Green, which, just to give everyone an update, it's a business where you do CBD oil and cannabis and hemp products for relaxation and various things. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about your business and how it started and what the sort of aim or who you're trying to help?
Sure. Yeah, I think the way I envision it is, I think the hemp and the cannabis and different things like that are just a very good example of what I consider like natural products that aren't necessarily used or utilized in people's health and wellness routines, and just overall kind of lifestyle. So, I think there are tons of products throughout our lives that we could replace with a natural alternative or just a natural solution, especially when you talk about ingestibles and topicals and different things like that. I'm not really big on pharmaceutical solutions and extremely processed or commercialized things. My journey through Kettlebell Kings and Living Fit, I was able to see so many people change their lives with health and wellness and creating a positive and healthy routine from someone who's a 65-year-old grandmother to someone who's a 15-year-old kid that's just starting to work out. But what I really noticed was people don't have any idea of how bad the things they're consuming are to them. And I think there's a huge misinformation campaign around just thinking that things are okay when in fact a natural solution would be a much healthier alternative for you. So I'm trying to build a community of people who really see that natural option as something that they want to be a part of, and they would prefer to have as many natural products in their lives and to complement and supplement their lifestyle as possible, whether that's hemp and cannabis or whether that's bamboo sheets and bedding or teas and glassware. All of these things that I think can be done in a natural way. I want to provide products for that audience.
And my wife has used, she struggles with sleep. She not quite an insomniac, but she struggles sometimes to go off. And I bought her CBD oil, and she was very concerned when I'm not going to get high, am I? I'm like, no, you're not. Absolutely not. Which I think is one of the biggest hurdles you're going to face with this business. And I'm sure you're 100% aware of that. But it did help her sleep. It did improve the relaxation to be able to sleep better. What are the challenges apart from insomnia or sleep problems? Does CBD oil or hemp products produce that can help people? What other areas?
If you're talking about trying to help you from how you feel, people use it in quite a few different ways. I think one of the things people like the most is the soreness. And so we have the muscle creams and the salves that people just can't get enough of. It's, to me, it's one of those things that I'm not, whatever you're trying to help achieve, let's say more of a relaxed, tranquil state, I think you can do that with CBD type of products. So if it's soreness, if it's like achiness, we've had people who have arthritis that it helps with, some people who have just generally stiff joints, and that gives them that same feeling that icy hot or any other type of cream that's supposed to improve, let's say, the circulation or the muscular performance. And I'll be honest with, I think a lot of it as well is the intention and focus on those areas and the want for natural solutions. You talking about your wife with the CBD, she could take some type of pharmaceutical drug. And I think everyone knows that's not a better option. So to me, it's what are your choices? Why aren't you trying natural solutions? If a natural solution works for you and it doesn't have a commercial 30-second long, these are the side effects that are going to negatively affect you in life, I don't understand why you're not trying. And I think that's the way to approach it. I don't tell someone like, hey, take this one CBD pill, cure your insomnia, but you should try it. It's a natural product. You can look at how it's created and the process to create it. It would be no different than you trying a vegetable to do something. It's one of those things that because it's a natural thing, there's very limited risk involved in kind of a high reward potential.
Do you have to have a certain level of ingredients for CBD oil? Because I would imagine the whole point of like pharmaceutical examples is that they'll put lots of different things in to do. As a natural product, what's the percentage of CBD oil being CBD oil and other things that you can put into it? Is there any sort of legislation or regulation on what a CBD oil actually needs to contain?
So I think what, your question is a very good question. That's part of the issue and part of kind of the misinformation act or the misinformation that's out there right now around this product and other products is there are different ways to process the plant, just like there's different ways to process anything. So you have things that have been processed in a organic or natural way, and you have things that have been processed with harsh chemicals, and you have low grade ingredients that get processed into what they're calling CBD oil. So all of these are things that need to be taken into consideration. And I think that's where finding a brand and finding a company that you trust goes a long way. So there are companies that are like the McDonald's, the CBD they make is highly processed. It's harsh chemicals that are used to break and strip everything off of some low grade quality hemp plant, and then they take that and call it the same CBD oil I sell, and it's not the same. So really trying to identify where things come from. When you would buy, if you would buy anything, you would want to try to get the best ingredients you could, the least processed way to process the plant, and then you would want to sell that as fresh as possible. And that's the mindset that I try to take with Life Grows Green is we're trying to source the best quality, period. There's no such thing as cutting the corners for quality. I think that is the community that I want to build, is people that appreciate the quality. If I have to pay $10 more and it's better quality, I'll pay $10 more. I'm not concerned with saving $10 to cut it with, that doesn't make me a better product in my mind.
So you said, again, similar to Kettlebell Kings, you're creating a community around your products. What marketing strategies are you using at the moment to build up that community?
It's definitely a lot harder in this space. And I'll say that very humbly. I even underestimated the difficulty of trying to advertise and create a community when you're creating a product that is banned or frowned upon socially or on, let's say, these social platforms and digital platforms in general. So whether it's Google, Facebook, TikTok, doesn't really matter. You can't just go out and advertise and try to create a community around hemp, and especially not cannabis products, like you can any other products. I think it's something that everyone is figuring out right now. My goal is to position the company to take advantage of the playing field when the playing field exists a lot more fairly, I would say. But I do think right now you can try to be where people are in that space. So whether that's partnering with organizations that are trying to change the stigmas around cannabis and the hemp plant, that's one of the reasons I even call myself an advocate for it, is because I do try to speak about using these types of products and not negatively allowing previous stigmas and previous misinformation by the government or by other actors to get in the way of trying to grow or be a part of a community like this. But it's an uphill battle. There's no right way to do it right now, if I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah, and you got legality as an issue for cannabis, and I've got to be careful because we're on platforms that might get rid of this video. But I was in America in August in Denver, and I believe it was legal there. Obviously, I didn't try it. I don't really do cannabis, but it was legal there. But like in the UK, it's very much an illegal drug, an illegal product that people can consume illegally. I think regulatory or legislative reasons, like you might be, my gut feel is that you might be able to leverage those where it's legal to be able to have those products, and you can probably promote it and sell it and market it more effectively in those industries. But I feel like it's missing the point. If it's legalized, the whole point of CBD or hemp products is that it's a natural product and you don't have the psychedelic effects of cannabis. You want to be in the communities or create the communities and build up the client base in those countries or locations where it isn't legal. Like you said, you're an advocate as well. Like, how do you cross purpose for states? Let's just say, take the US, states that have cannabis as a legal product. Are you leveraging those more, or the states where it isn't legal, are you really pushing the CBD oils and other hemp products?
This is what's crazy is every product that we sell is federally legal in all states. So we only sell products that are legal by the United States government's definition. You set up a product lineup under your rules and regulations. These are legal products, and I can sell them online to all 50 states. But then I can't advertise for some reason. Then I can't advertise on Facebook, can't advertise on Google. So there is no really like geographical targeting because you can't really advertise there. So Google's not making specific advertising rules for Denver or for Colorado or for any state or anything like that. They're doing what's best for them overall. They will come out with regulations and say, we've loosened things up a little bit, so you can say this or you can say that. But the advertisements are either getting shadow banned, not served at all. You always take the risk of losing your entire account. That's happened to me several times at this point when I literally did everything exactly how you guys told me to do it, and I lost my account. And there's no government agency that says, hey, that's illegal. You can't do that to them. You just lose. And so I think we're in a situation right now where companies there's very little reward, high risk for them putting this out there because there is such a stigma and someone could make an example out of them. So Facebook and Google do not want to have to fight that battle on every single front. And it's better for them to wait on the regulations to pass and just ride the green wave from the back and let everyone else take all the hits up front. And I think that's what's happening right now. I think it's a matter of time before it becomes an even playing field, and you'll be able to sell this product the same way you would any other supplement or anything like that. But right now, it's not a fair playing field at all. And I think regulators know that, and they're trying and attempting to work on it at their pace.
Yeah, it's interesting because business is a lot about how good your product or service is, but sometimes timing, just being in the right business at the right time. You almost sound like you're ahead of the curve at the moment and you're waiting for the legislators to actually catch up to then be able to have potentially a huge business if it becomes a lot more mainstream.
For sure. And then you can't even right now, especially with our advertising, it's hard to educate people on the differences between the products. So you'll have people who do try CBD for the first time, and it's not really CBD. It's hemp seed oil that's been pressed with chemical processes, and it's been extracted from low quality seeds that were going to go in the trash versus taking a strong, healthy plant and using the actual vegetation itself to pull all of the nutrients. There's a level of difference that is tenfold, hundredfold sometimes in the quality of ingredients that you can't even educate people on right now, because the only really people that see success right now are people who throw a bunch of money at it somewhat through illegal or gray ways, gray hat / black hat type of advertising strategies. And you have to be frank, a lot of the people that sold the product before, they come from an illegal world, and that's how they do business. They don't do business in the traditional sense. And so there is a lot of that as well, as trying to clean up and professionalize the industry in a way that people respect it and don't look at it as an entryway for criminal activity or things like that.
Yeah, it must be really hard. It must be a real challenge. Is there anything that you've learned from Kettlebell Kings that you're implementing in your new business?
For sure. I think one of the things I realized with this journey with Kettlebell Kings is I have a passion for helping people. I tell people all the time, I can never own a McDonald's, or I can never do something that I feel like I'm hurting people, or even if it's just a small little hurt, I can never do that on a regular basis, because my mind just thinks scale, and my mind goes, okay, I need everybody doing this. And I don't want everybody doing something bad or everybody doing something that's a negative impact on their life. So I think with this company, that's one of the things that drives me, is I really want to help people. I really want to find and create this community of people that wants natural lifestyle products. And I see myself as a scientist of new product development for the rest of my life sometimes. And I really just, I look for the community to tell me, like, hey, what do you guys really want? So I can go out there and make it and find it and source it and create something that everyone enjoys. And ultimately, I think that's what I want to do with any company I have, but especially with Life Grows Green.
Do you have an exit plan? Have you thought about it?
Not at this point. Yeah, not at this point. I don't even know if I want to exit from this space necessarily. I'm not one of those people that I want to exit from every company that I start. I wouldn't mind having something that I work on for legacy type of brand even. At the same time, I try to be a strategic business professional. I'll give you the nail salon, for example. During COVID, the nail salon was doing great. We were very successful salon. COVID helped Kettlebell Kings growth as well. So things were going great. But because of the timing of COVID, the lease needed to be re-signed, and we hadn't been working for 6 months. And so there was a dispute about the back rent, and we weren't going to pay the back rent. It was, I think at the time, it was maybe $60,000, $70,000. We weren't going to just pay that up front to sign a new lease. And that's what we were propositioned with. And ultimately that ended up kind of shutting the salon down. And did I want to take that path? Not at all. But for the decision process and for me being a never growing kind of entrepreneur and business professional, it was a no-brainer to take that path. And I think that's how I am with most of my businesses. If I see an opportunity that's going to achieve growth, I don't take things personal. I try to do what's best for the business and move forward.
What type of leader are you? How would you describe yourself?
I think I'm fair but intense. I think a lot of people describe me sometimes as intense. I think I'm the type that I like to set a higher level of expectations for whatever our goals are than most people. And I think I do that on purpose because I don't think I want an average company. So I don't think our efforts should be average going towards it. And I think that comes from sports. When you go and you're practicing with other people, you're trying to make them better. And I want people to make me better in that way. And so I think I do challenge people to try to be a better version of themselves and try to design some type of structure that allows you to achieve that. So very much like a workout, working around me is going to be progressive overload.
Amazing. Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all of my guests. So quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. They're a little bit thought provoking. First question is, what's the best decision that you've made?
Probably to start my own business. I think that jump from being a W-2 employee to starting my own business is terrifying. I think it's terrifying for anybody.
Yeah.
But I think it put me in the perspective to grow. I think it forced me to grow. I think as an employee, I could see myself stagnating as a person, as a professional, as a thinker, just as an overall human being. And taking on the role of ownership, it just requires a constant improvement, or you're going to be depressed. So if you're not improving, you're either getting beat down or getting stronger. And I think getting stronger is what I wanted to do anyway. So I think that's one of the best decisions I made.
Amazing. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Choosing your personal relationships carefully, especially your romantic relationships, I think are super important. I tell people all the time, especially people who are starting their own business, managing personal relationships will be a part of it. And whether that's the personal relationship between you and your business partners, but it's also people who manage their own personal relationships are good business partners, and people who allow their personal relationships to cloud the business can bring down the entire business. And
Yeah.
I've seen that happen to several different companies, and there hasn't been a single company in which I haven't had to address some personal relationship or someone else's personal relationship. So really focusing on maintaining a quality personal relationship and maintaining a quality circle of people, a circle of trust, I think is super important.
Yeah. And your partner is really important in business. You need to recognize that you need someone to do, like, you need your partner to do what, like, it could be completely different things. It could be challenge you, it could be support you, it could be just loving you, it could be just being present, being there, whatever it is, whatever you need.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so important having that partner that can fill the, if it's gaps or things that you need to supplement to be successful. So I do think making a wise choice with a partner is so important, so important. So I 100% agree with you. Who helped you most in your career?
So many people. I tell people all the time, I've always tried to put myself in a situation to grow. I think people have recognized that about me from an early age. I think I can start with my dad, obviously challenging me, making me work out every day, pushing me to get a scholarship and things like that. But all of my coaches, all of my teachers, I've always been in honors classes, and obviously I went to, so I've always tried to push myself intellectually as well. And along that journey, I've seen people see me trying and see my effort. And I think those are the people that I appreciate the most, is the people that try to support me on that journey.
Amazing. And tell me about a regret that you have.
A regret, that's a good one. I think if I'm forcing myself to have regrets, I think with Kettlebell Kings, we could have done a lot more faster. I talk about like waiting 5 years to pay ourselves or waiting to take on an investor. One of my regrets is that if we would have taken those things on earlier, potentially we could have sold the company for more, or maybe we didn't even have to sell the company. We could have had so much cash in the bank. But so if I had a little regret, or if I have kind of something that nags me from time to time, it's, man, if we would have taken $2 million in 2013, things might have been quite a bit different. So things like that.
But as an entrepreneur, you have to deal with risk all the time, don't you? The risk of
Yeah, we probably would have just wasted that money and shut the company down. So that's how hindsight works, right? And that's why I say I don't even look at it like regret, to be honest. This is me answering the question because I do somewhat think about it. But I am one of those people, like, I've lost so many games. I've lost so many kind of these micro battles that I know I wouldn't be who I was without losing too. So I know I had to take losses. I know there's no such thing as me just getting to where I am today without having have gone through some type of loss. And I think that's just part of the process.
Yeah, it's a deliberately not difficult, provocative question. It's trying to,
Yeah.
And I thank you for forcing yourself to think about a regret, because a lot, like, I get a lot of this answer, look, I don't have regrets, that I'm the sum of all of my decisions, and whether they were good or bad decisions, that's who I am. And I always think, yeah, I get that, but there's something, like, whether you treated someone badly or you did something too slow or too fast. So thank you for forcing yourself to think about a regret. What are you most proud of?
Probably being a good son and a good brother, and being just a good friend to my circle. I think over this difficult time of entrepreneurship and starting your own business and growing things like that, I think you develop relationships and lifelong relationships along the way. And I think I've been able to do that. I was not able to, like, when you come from playing football and you come from playing sports, it's really easy to find friends and you have friends. And after you graduate, I think every adult is like, how do I find friends for the rest of my life? Am I going to just have that same circle? And I think entrepreneurship opens some of those doors to you as well. You find a lot of like-minded people who share the same passions as you. And so I'm really proud that I've been able to form a good reputation in those circles and be of value to people that I would like to be associated with. And I think that are, thought leaders or business leaders for the world.
Amazing. What does legacy mean to you?
I think for me, it means like leaving things better than before you got there. My legacy would only be relevant if it was an improvement on what was there before I came on board. If it's the business world or the fitness space, I look at Kettlebell Kings as part of my legacy. I don't think there was a kettlebell company in that space that was able to achieve what we were able to achieve. But then also look at legacy as the example I set for my family and for the people that look up to me. I'm really big on inspiring other people. And I know it might be a small thing to some people, but I think seeing people like yourself, or seeing people who you would consider your equal or one of you actually succeed and do things that are difficult inspires the next generation. And I think as humans, that's one of the things that we have to do. We have to see people go after and try to achieve difficult things so that we are ready for the next difficult task. And I like to be one of those people that does that for people.
Amazing. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you, or do you have any sort of offers that you can offer to my audience?
Sure. If you would like to reach out to me, Chad at Chad Price is my email. You can find me at chadprice.com. Then also I'm on all social channels. So either Chad Price or at Real Chad Price. And then if the book right now is $2.99 on Amazon for ebooks. And if you really want a book, I can hook you guys up with some free copies. Just send me an email. I'll get somebody to send you over a copy if you're super interested in the book.
That's amazing. Look, thank you so much, Chad. It's been absolutely fascinating hearing about your journey and about how you've grown your businesses. So thank you very much for joining me today. Look, guys, if you're enjoying this content, please do subscribe on all podcast apps so you don't miss an episode. And you can also go to businessgrowthtalks.com if you want to find out more information about my back catalogue. Lastly, Chad, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. You truly are inspiring with the different areas that you've worked in and your businesses that you've grown. And equally, I love the idea that you're trying to do things to make people's lives better. So both Kettlebell Kings as well as the new business as well. Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you for having me. It was very nice meeting you.
Pleasure. Hey everyone, just finished the interview with Chad and I'm now thinking about the story. So the book, check out the book. It's out now, Preparing for Battle. I think he's got a really strong message there on starting businesses, growing businesses, early life. I think he's got a really strong story with his sports background, and interesting that he got very close to the NFL but didn't quite make it, but then was able to change into entrepreneurship. And Kettlebell Kings, I'd not heard of it, I have to, full transparency, but when I was doing the research, there's a real community that he's created in the kettlebell industry, and it's great that he was working with gyms. That would have been like the major point to actually get his kettlebells in there. But I love that idea of creating a community. I think that's with the advent of social media, and I was born when social media wasn't around, but the introduction of social media and creating that community is so heartening to hear people being able to leverage that for their business. So all power to Chad. And then life grown green is an interesting concept of using CBD oil and hemp products. I think he is ahead of the game. I think he's ahead of the curve. Whether we move towards that becoming more mainstream and being available and promoted is a very interesting idea. Interesting to hear what his expanding plans are, and the idea that he didn't want to necessarily want to sell. And I think that's something that we do need to think about. A couple of people have been on my show have talked about that you need to have an exit plan when you start, or you should have one. And I think there's an element of you should have an idea what the end game is. But then equally, if you love the domain you're in, but you don't want to necessarily be hustling and grinding every day, you might want to, but you might not want to do that. But still keeping a business, I think, is a valid way of being able. You can still be strategic. You can still have an impact on that business. You don't always have to sell. So I think that's interesting. It was interesting when he talked about getting investment. So I know a lot of people in this arena bootstrapping and really trying to build that business incrementally, iteratively. Yeah, that's absolutely. I run businesses that we've not got investment for. We don't need investment per se, but that idea of using investment outside of everyone talks about investment on the tech industry, but thinking about using investment in other industries, I think is an interesting concept. And if you're thinking about how to grow the business, how to really scale a business, move faster, I think that is a valid way of being able to do it. If you're thinking about it, look, in the UK, there's lots of sort of advice, and I'm sure in the US, there's lots of advice on, and you can research it on lots of different places on how to get investment and tools to be able to get investments. And equally, accelerators and things like that could be a really good way. I have heard mixed reviews on people that have been in accelerators, but I think that's another great way of being able to build your business fast and really be able to put 10x it quickly. So look, very interesting guy, come from a sports background myself, so absolutely resonate with so much. And that whole idea about never giving yourself a break and never celebrating the wins enough, I think is something that I wouldn't say all entrepreneurs suffer with, but I think some do. So I think from a mental health point of view, we should think about how to celebrate those small wins. Not go crazy, but just stop. What do they say? Stop and smell the roses. Just have a touch point, have a stop point, and just think where you were a year ago and where you are now. That's always a great comparison. Never compare yourself to other people in your industry or in business or in life. Always think about where were you a year ago and where are you now? Have you moved forward from that point? And if the answer is yes, you're moving in the right direction, slowly, fastly, whatever it is, always do that comparison. It's a super important. I see so many people cursed with comparing themselves to other people, and the other thing just on that point is, look, you see people on social media, even on television, you see them for such a small part of their life where they can convince you that they have the perfect life. And behind closed doors, it's not the case. So that's why we should be comparing ourselves to where we were a year ago, rather than comparing ourselves to Elon Musk, to Richard Branson, to a footballer, to a soccer player, to whatever the football version of football you're interested in. Do think about that. I think that's super important from a mental health point of view. And we'll come back to that, I'm sure, more than once on the future episodes. But thank you, Chad. Thank you so much for your time. It was fantastic speaking to you, and I really enjoyed that. And now on to the next one. I really hope you've enjoyed that content. It's a really fascinating interview that I've done there. So please do, if you are enjoying this content, please do give a subscribe. It'd be really good to boost the subscriptions. It really makes a difference to the algorithm in YouTube. So thank you for that. If you do hit subscribe, hit the bell icon and you'll get all of the content. You'll get notified when all the content is available. Thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated. Thanks a lot.